Hello and welcome to Castar Reviews, and today we'll be finishing up the Street Fighter review series with the latest addition to the franchise. 2 years after Ultra Street Fighter 4 was released, Capcom decided that the franchise needed to move on from Street Fighter 4 after 6 years of updates. With that, Street Fighter 5 was released in February of 2016 and was received with mixed to negative reception. There weren't as many characters as before, and the content was lacking compared to other fighting games on the market. The original Street Fighter 5 didn't even have arcade mode. That wasn't the end though. Street Fighter 5 also had a season pass of DLC characters and required players to pay for everything with either in-game or real-world currency. After low sales reports, Capcom slowly started to make amends with fans. They released a cinematic story mode a la Mortal Kombat, and in 2018, Street Fighter 5 Arcade Edition was released, which added an in-depth arcade mode and came bundled with all the previous DLC characters. This was solid, but Capcom still released more DLC characters, and it seemed like the future of the game was in doubt. But in February 2020, 4 years on from the original release, Street Fighter V Champion Edition was released to the public. This version came with just about every piece of DLC released for Street Fighter V at a major discount for people who already have the game. This is the definitive version of Street Fighter V and is the only one that you can really get on the market today. Before I go on, I want to thank my buddy Adam Hussein for letting me use his Super PC to record footage, since this game is only out for consoles I do not own and will cook my laptop for breakfast. Without further ado, let's take a look at the most recent Street Fighter entry. Street Fighter V is another game to fill in the chasm in the timeline between Super Turbo and Second Impact, but it actually follows up on the events of Street Fighter IV. Each character has their own mini-story mode where they go through a few fights, and for some characters it serves as a prologue to the big cinematic story mode. For DLC characters released post-story mode, it's more or less the same narratives we've seen before. Now let's move on to that big story mode. It starts off with Charlie Nash getting resurrected by the Illuminati. Yep, the Secret Society is back, with Urien and Gil's secretary. Shockingly, Gil didn't even come into this game until last Valentine's Day, but I digress. Also, new character Rashid is trying to infiltrate Shadaloo so he can find out what happened to his pen pal or something. While he's there, he finds out from Fong that Shadaloo is trying to take over the world with satellites known as Black Moons. Fong is a guy with poison powers obsessed with the number 2, and he replaced Sagat as one of the main Shadaloo lieutenants. The story is more or less about Charlie getting his revenge on Bison, Rashid finding his friends, and the good guys, Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, Guile, and Karin, attempting to stop Shadaloo. You get some cameo appearances from Alex, Juri, and Urien, but this is basically it. Sadly, in the end, Charlie fails to beat Bison, so Ryu goes in and finishes the job. With that, Shadaloo is dead for now, and everyone goes their separate ways, which sets up nicely for the events of Street Fighter 3. Rashid also finds out that his friend was killed by Shadaloo, and then he beats up Fong. I have a few issues with the story mode. One is why Rashid featured so prominently in it. You'd think he was the main character or something with how involved he gets in everything. Ryu barely did shit in this story mode until the end, and he's the fucking poster boy for Street Fighter. It would have made more sense to have Chun-Li, Guile, or Cammy infiltrate Shadaloo because each of them have legit vendettas against the organization for different reasons. Another issue is how besides Rashid, the new characters get no screen time. The story mode is solid in and of itself, but the character priority is all out of whack. It just feels like it was rushed, except it came out a few months after the game released. Hopefully the presentation fares better than the plot. Hell yeah it does. This is such an upgrade over Street Fighter 4, it's not even funny. I did say I liked the 3D models of Street Fighter 4, but some of them look dated, which is not the game's fault. I like the art style a lot more in Street Fighter 5 and feel like it suits most of these characters. In case you haven't noticed, a bunch of characters got redesigns, such as my favorite character, Ken Masters. They're very hit or miss. I love Karin and Guile's redesigns, and aside from the hair, Ken's new getup looks nice. More often than not, characters look better than they ever have in Street Fighter V. Thankfully, Street Fighter V has alternate costumes just like its predecessor. Before Champion Edition, these costumes were DLC, and it would have cost you a pretty penny to unlock them all, which I was pretty mad about. But with Champion Edition, you can dress to your heart's content. Personally, I like some of Chun-Li's alternates, plus Ken's throwback to his alpha design. There are so many costumes that I don't want to waste time talking about all of them, I'll just say that they're pretty good. Street Fighter V continues to utilize the flashy camera angles for special moves that was present in Street Fighter 4, and they look better than before. I don't think there's much they could have done with the camera angles to improve, but it's still nice that there were some touch-ups in that department with the switch to Unreal Engine 4. The music and sounds also sound a lot better this time around, with more of a focus on the guitar as opposed to the synth and electronic remixes for Street Fighter 4's character themes. The main theme for the original Street Fighter V is one of my favorite fighting game themes to date, and just about all the character and stage themes are incredible. The sound effects got high marks from me as well. The hit sound effects sound so punchy and satisfying, it's like you're in the stage background watching a resurrected American soldier beat up a Japanese martial artist. While the overarching story falters, the presentation more than makes up for it. Much like its graphic design, Street Fighter V's gameplay is also stellar. At risk of repeating myself, the thing that makes Street Fighter so much fun as a fighting game series is that each game feels like a separate entity that still has the fundamental mechanics of Street Fighter. Those mechanics being a cancel-based combo system, most characters having projectiles, and a super meter that rewards players for performing well in fights. The only thing that really changes between Street Fighters is the super meter and or some of the things around it. So what does Street Fighter V do to shake up the formula? Focus attacks are gone, ultra combos have pieced out, and the super meter only has 3 blocks on it for EX moves. In its place, we have the V system. A character's V skill is a move that requires holding down medium punch and medium kick and is character specific. They range from attacks to counters or power-ups. A character's V trigger, which is used by holding down heavy punch and heavy kick, is a replacement for the ultra combo, but it behaves very differently to its predecessor. It fills up the same way, but a character's V-trigger can range from a one-off attack to a short power-up or change the properties of moves altogether. This is a fun extension to gameplay that allowed Capcom to experiment with character moves without having to commit to changing up their move lists. For example, have you ever wondered what it would be like to follow up Guile's sonic booms just by hitting a button? Now you can. You can choose between 2 V skills and 2 V triggers per character, which adds more to explore when using different characters. The arcade mode, or should I say modes, grants you the option of playing through arcade ladders based off of Street Fighter 1, 2, Alpha, 3, 4, and 5. Sadly, you can only pick characters that appeared in that game or adjacent. After completing an arcade run, you get a comic representation of that character's ending in the corresponding game. Also, if you do well enough in arcade mode, you get to get your ass kicked by Shin Akuma and his casual 50% damage combos. In general, Street Fighter V's gameplay favors Rushdown, which is probably why I like it so much. It feels more in line with Street Fighter 3 instead of Street Fighter 4's Super Turbo. The game rewards offense, but controversially took out one of the most iconic Street Fighter mechanics, the meterless invincible reversal, i.e. the Shoryuken. 2 years ago, Capcom decided to adjust the invincibility frames of non-EX Shoryuken so that it wouldn't be invincible on the first frames of animation. The only way to get an invincible reversal is to spend EX meter. It's a bit of a weird thing to get used to, since uppercuts in Street Fighter are the universal symbol of get the fuck off me. This tipped the balance greatly for characters without invincible uppercuts, and is one of the main reasons why this game is so offense oriented. I'm a firm believer of the Mike D'Antoni school of winning a game, which is that the best defense is a good offense. But for players who like to play patiently, this just took away a tool that they could have used to escape from pressure. It was a very controversial thing when it was announced a few years ago, but I really hope that meterless invincible reversals come back for Street Fighter 6. Despite the lack of true Shoryukens, the overall gameplay is really fun, and the addition of the V system adds another layer of depth to gameplay without being overpowered. Well, this is it. The end of the Street Fighter retrospective. It's nice to end one of these on a good note and keep your eyes peeled for my next retrospective, which brings us back to the world of animal platformers. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Castar Reviews. Subscribe for more content from me, and stay safe. See you soon.